Hello and welcome to the Excel Cave. Today we're going to talk about using VBA to select cells. I want to show you how to select a single cell range. There's different ways you can do that with VBA and we'll go through all of them. So to get back into the VBA editor window, you're going to hit the keyboard shortcut Alt F11. Within our modules, in our project window, we're going to insert a new module. We will rename this Selecting Single Cell Ranges. It's a little long. And up here, we're going to type sub to begin our subroutine, and then maybe we'll just copy this and paste it in here. Okay. So the first method I showed in our last video, but I'd just like to run through that really quick again. And again, you can use the keyboard shortcut Control and the spacebar to get your list of options of different methods and objects and properties within VBA. If I start typing the word range, it'll instantly pop up. I can select that and hit Tab. And we're just selecting a single cell, so we only have one cell reference in here, and we'll just do A5. And that needs to be in double quotes within a parentheses. And we hit a full stop, and then we can start typing the word select, and that will pop up there. You can hit Tab to fill it in and then hit enter, and I'll minimize this so we can run this code and see what it's doing here in the active sheet. So if I hit F5 to run the code, you can see over here that Excel selected cell A5. Easy enough. So now here's another method to select a range. It's the cells property. So here it asks for a row index followed by a column index, and you can use numbers here. So whatever row 1, 2, 3, 4, we'll just pick one at random. We'll just pick row 8, maybe column 3. Do the same thing. So now I'll put my cursor over here, go back into the window here, and we'll F8 to run through this code. I mentioned this in the last video, but if you want to run your code and test it out one line at a time, you can hit F8. So you can see it starts on our first line to execute the subroutine. Once I hit F8, it moves down to our first line of code. If it's highlighted, it has not been executed yet, so I'll hit F8. This will select cell A5, and it does over here. So now we'll hit F8 again to execute this next line of code, and it selects 8 rows down, 3 rows across, which is C8. Hit F8 one more time to end the subroutine, and it is done. So that is another way you can select a single cell range. And finally, there's a more shorthand way to do it. There is one small disadvantage to this way, but you can enter your cell reference in square brackets. Let's just do B13. The downside to this is you don't get the list of options of items you can select from. So you have to know exactly what you're going to write afterwards. So that is the downside to this shorthand way. But we'll F8 through this. So first we select cell A5, then we select cell C8, and finally it selects cell B13. So now we're going to talk about selecting ranges that have more than one cell in them, multi-cell ranges. So what I'm going to do is create a new subroutine. And as with the previous examples, there is more than one way to do this. We will start out with the range object in the first way. And the first way is simply inserting it within the range object, within the parentheses, and the top corner and bottom corners of your range are separated by a colon. And of course, you do a full stop with a period and then the select method. So now when I F8, I have only one line of code, so it would probably make more sense to just hit F5 to run the entire subroutine. So that's what we'll do. This should select range A3 to D7. And it does. So now we're going to use the range object again, and just slightly different this time. The other way with the range object is to list your top and bottom corners of your range in double quotes separately and separate them with a comma. So we'll do a different set of cells this time. Oops, almost forgot the quotation mark. And now we can F8 through this. This first line of code, it will look like nothing's being done because that range is already selected, so we'll just go over that one. And now when we run the second line of code, it should select a different set of cells. And it does, A3 to D15. So finally, we have the shorthand way, which does not require quotation marks. And we can just simply list our range and separate the top and bottom corners by a colon within the square brackets. So now we'll F8 through this to run the code one line at a time. Easy enough.